In the 41st millennium, there is only war. Across 1,000,000 worlds, humanity bleeds in the Emperor's name, fighting enemies so vast and terrible that hope itself is a luxury few can afford. Yet on the agri-world of Demeter's bounty, as High Fleet Jormungandr descended like a living nightmare from the stars, something fell through the sky that would make even the Tyranids pause. It wasn't a drop pod. It wasn't an angel of death clad in ceramite. It was a bald man in a yellow jumpsuit and a white cape, and he looked profoundly annoyed. Saitama hit the wheat fields at terminal velocity, creating a crater that vaporized 3 acres of genetically modified grain. He stood up, brushed cosmic dust off his suit, and stared at the purple sky with the expression of someone who just missed their train. "Great," he muttered. "Where am I now?" The answer came in the form of a Carnifex. The Bio-Titan emerged from the burning tree line, a living engine of death, 12 meters tall, its 4 scything talons dripping with the remains of PDF soldiers. Its carapace was thick enough to shrug off laser cannon fire. Its roar shook the ground, a sound designed by the hive mind to trigger primal terror in prey species. Behind it, thousands of hormagaunts swarmed like a chittering tide of blades and hunger. Saitama looked up at the creature. Big bug. The Carnifex charged, its tonnage shaking the earth with each thunderous step. Crusher claws spread wide, mandibles open to reveal a maw that could swallow a chimera transport whole. It had killed 17 Space Marines on Valador. It had torn through a Baneblade's armor on Shadowbrink. It was a perfect killing machine, sculpted by eons of galactic consumption. Saitama punched it. Not a wind-up, not a stance, just a casual, almost lazy jab, the kind you'd use to knock on a door. His fist connected with the Carnifex's skull plate, and the creature simply ceased. Not exploded. There was no spray of ichor, no dramatic death throes. The Tyranid Bio-Titan converted instantly into a fine red mist that painted the wheat field for half a kilometer. The shockwave flattened the hormagaunts behind it, the air pressure alone pulping their organs through their exoskeletons. Silence fell across the battlefield. 300 meters away, Colonel Vaston of the 88th Cadian watched through magnoculars, his hands frozen on the device. His command squad, veterans of the 13th Black Crusade, soldiers who'd seen demons claw their way from the warp, stood motionless. Their Auspex arrays had recorded the impact. The data made no sense. Kinetic force equivalent to a Death Strike missile, except from a human fist, with 0 charge-up, 0 energy signature, 0 warning. What? The colonel's voice cracked. What in the Emperor's name was that? Saitama, meanwhile, was looking around with growing confusion. The architecture was all wrong, crude, gothic, covered in skulls and purity seals. The soldiers wore lasguns he didn't recognize. The sky had 2 suns and smelled like industrial runoff. This definitely wasn't Z-City. Another wave of Tyranids surged forward, termagants by the hundreds, their flesh borers spitting living ammunition that could strip a man to bone in seconds. Saitama sighed, walked forward at a leisurely pace, and threw a casual series of jabs. Each punch created a cone of liquefied Tyranid that extended for 50 meters. He wasn't even trying. He was barely paying attention, mostly looking around for something that might explain where he was. "Excuse me," he called out toward the Imperial lines. "Do you know where the nearest supermarket is? I was in the middle of shopping and—" A hive tyrant descended from the clouds, a synapse creature that commanded the swarm with the authority of the hive mind itself. Wings that could generate hurricane-force winds, bone swords that could carve through tank armor, a lash whip that moved faster than human eyes could track. It was a monster that required coordinated Space Marine assault teams to kill. Saitama looked up, mildly interested. "Oh, this one flies." The Hive Tyrant struck with the speed of a lightning bolt, all four blades converging on Saitama's position with enough force to crater rockcrete. The impact created a dust cloud that obscured everything. Colonel Vastin's heart sank. Surely no unarmored human could survive that. The dust cleared. Saitama stood in exactly the same position, one hand raised, having caught all four blades between his fingers. The Hive Tyrant strained, its alien biology pumping combat stimulants through muscle fibers designed to crush carnifexes. The blades didn't move a millimeter. So, Saitama said conversationally to the struggling creature, "You guys wouldn't happen to have any grocery stores around here, would you? I had a coupon for." He flicked his wrist. The Hive Tyrant rotated 360 degrees, its entire body spinning from the casual motion, and slammed into the ground with enough force to create a secondary crater. It tried to rise. Saitama stepped on its head, not hard, just enough to keep it pinned, like someone preventing a door from closing. "Look, I'm not trying to be rude," Saitama continued, his voice carrying that flat, bored tone of someone dealing with a minor inconvenience. "But I really need to get back. There was a sale on premium beef, and if I miss it, I'm stuck with the regular grade for another month." The hive mind, that vast and incomprehensible intelligence that had devoured galaxies, made a calculation. This organism was wrong. Not mutated, not evolved, not weapon. Wrong. Impossible. Threat assessment, recalibrate, recalibrate, recalibrate. Every Tyranid on Demeter's bounty suddenly stopped. The swarms froze mid-charge. Gargoyles hung motionless in the air. Even the capillary towers ceased their pulsing. For 5 full seconds, the hive mind performed the closest thing it had to emotion, confusion, bordering on existential dread. Then it ordered a full retreat. Bioships in orbit fired spores to retrieve ground forces. The Tyranids fled, not in panic, but in programmed efficiency, abandoning a perfectly viable feeding ground because something on the surface did not compute. Within 20 minutes, High Fleet Jormungandr was burning toward the Mandeville Point, leaving behind a world that should have been stripped to bedrock. Colonel Vostern watched the Xenos withdrawal with the numb disbelief of a man whose understanding of warfare had just been demolished. In 30 years of service, he'd never seen Tyranids retreat from anything except superior Tyranid forces. Never. "All units!" he managed to croak into the Vox. "Hold position! Command, this is Vostern. We need inquisitorial presence immediately. We have a..." He struggled for words. "We have a contact. Unknown classification. Potentially Emperor's Divine..." He couldn't finish. How do you report a man who just defeated a Tyranid invasion by looking inconvenienced? Saitama, oblivious to the theological crisis he'd just created, was examining a destroyed Chimera transport nearby. "Hey, is this some kind of tank? The design is really weird. And why are there so many skulls? Is this a themed restaurant or something?" Acadian Sergeant approached cautiously, Lay's gun lowered but not holstered, his knuckles white on the grip. Lord Emperor's Angel, we are unworthy to..." "I'm not an angel," Saitama interrupted, waving dismissively. "I'm just a hero for fun. Well, I was. Now I'm lost." He looked at the sergeant with those blank, innocent eyes that somehow made his previous display of violence seem even more disturbing. "Seriously, where am I? This doesn't look like any part of Japan I know." The sergeant opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. His training had prepared him for Lay's fire, for Xenos, for heretics, for the nightmare of chaos itself. It had not prepared him for a demigod who asked about geography while standing on a dead hive tyrant. This is Demeter's bounty, my lord, in the segmentum obscurus, the imperium of man, under the god emperor's holy light."
Saitama blinked. Imperium? God Emperor? He scratched his bald head. I've never heard of those. Is that near Saitama Prefecture? Colonel Vostern arrived flanked by his command squad and dropped to one knee. His officers followed suit. Great warrior, whether you are the Emperor's instrument or a manifestation of his divine will, we give thanks for our deliverance. The ecclesiarchy must be informed. The Inquisition. Okay, hold on. Saitama raised his hands in a calm-down gesture. I don't know what an ecclesiarchy is, and I'm definitely not anyone's instrument. I just want to get back. There was a sale on premium beef, and if I miss it, I'm stuck with the regular grade for another month. The Imperials exchanged glances. Phone? Train? The words were low Gothic, but the concept seemed alien, trivial. The Vox operator whispered, "He speaks of ancient technologies, perhaps from the Dark Age." Before anyone could respond, the horizon lit up with engine fire. 3 Thunderhawk gunships descended, their hulls bearing the symbols of the Ordo Xenos and the personal heraldry of Inquisitor Covenant Hellstrom. Stormbolters swiveled at Saitama, targeters painted him with a dozen crimson dots. From the lead Thunderhawk's Voxcaster, a cold feminine voice crackled across the field. Unidentified entity, you will comply with immediate detention, or you will be subject to extreme sanction under authority of the Holy Ordos. You have 10 seconds to prostrate yourself. Saitama looked up at the gunships, then back at the colonel. Are these guys friends of yours? Colonel Vostern's face had gone pale. The Inquisition, here, now, for the thing that had just saved them all. My lord, please, you must... 5 seconds. Saitama sighed, a sound of pure, exhausted resignation. This is turning into a really annoying day. The statement was so absurdly mundane, delivered in such a flat tone while standing in a crater surrounded by liquefied alien biomass and aiming weapons capable of vaporizing tanks, that it created a moment of surreal disconnect in every soldier present. Then, Inquisitor Hellstrom gave the order to fire, and the day got significantly more complicated for everyone involved.
The Stormbolters opened fire. Mass reactive rounds, each one a miniature missile designed to penetrate power armor before detonating, converged on Saitama's position at supersonic velocity. 40 rounds per second, 3 gunships, concentrated fire that could reduce a space marine to paste. The sound was apocalyptic, a rolling thunderclap that drowned out all thought. The rounds struck Saitama's body and disintegrated. Not bounced off, not deflected, the mass reactive shells simply ceased to exist upon contact with his skin, their explosive cores failing to detonate, their adamantium casings crumbling to powder. It was as if reality itself had decided that the concept of damaging Saitama was a logical impossibility and adjusted accordingly. Saitama looked down at his jumpsuit, checking for holes. "Hey, careful, I just got this cleaned." Inquisitor Covenant Hellstrom watched through the Thunderhawk's viewport, her augmetic eye cycling through 17 different spectrums of analysis. Thermal, no heat signature change. Psychic, 0 warp presence. Biological, readings matched baseline human. Kinetic absorption, error. Molecular integrity, error. Threat assessment, error, error, error. "Las cannons," she ordered, her voice ice, despite the sweat forming on her brow. Twin-linked las cannons swiveled and fired. Beams of coherent light, hot enough to cut through ship hulls, lanced down, carving furrows through the wheat fields, vaporizing Imperial soldiers too slow to dive for cover. The beams intersected on Saitama's position, creating a light show bright enough to sear unprotected retinas. When the glare faded, Saitama was standing in a perfectly circular patch of glass, melted silica from the heat, looking increasingly annoyed. "Okay, seriously, what is wrong with you people? I'm trying to ask for directions." Colonel Vostern grabbed his Voxcaster, screaming into the channel, Inquisitor, cease fire! He saved us! He destroyed the Tyranids! He is an abomination. Hellstrom's voice cut through, cold and absolute. No human possesses such power without corruption. He is either a weapon of Xenos origin, a daemon wearing flesh, or something worse. By the authority vested in me by the God Emperor himself, I will see this thing dissected or destroyed. Saitama heard the transmission through the Vox speakers scattered across the field. He processed the words, abomination, daemon, destroyed, and his expression shifted. Not to anger, not even to concern, just a deeper, more profound weariness. I'm not a daemon, he called up to the gunships, his voice carrying despite the engine roar. I'm just a guy who did hero work back home, and I'm definitely not an abomination. That's pretty rude, actually. One of the Thunderhawks deployed a stasis bomb, a device that could freeze time itself in a localized field. It detonated 20 meters above Saitama, creating a sphere of stopped chronology that should have trapped him in eternal stillness. Saitama walked out of it, simply stepped through the temporal barrier as if it were morning fog, the stasis field collapsing into sparks of confused energy. Look, I don't want to fight you. I don't even know who you are. I just want to go home, eat dinner, and maybe watch some TV. Can we please just talk about this? Inquisitor Hellstrom's hand hovered over the Exterminatus authorization codes. Her mind raced through doctrine, through centuries of inquisitorial precedent, through every text on demonic manifestation and Xenos infiltration she'd memorized. Nothing fit. This entity spoke with genuine confusion, moved with no tactical awareness, and displayed power that eclipsed Imperial saints while complaining about television. "Stand down," she finally ordered, her jaw tight. "Reaper protocol, full containment." The Thunderhawk's cargo ramps dropped, and 20 Grey Knights descended on gravchutes, their silver armor gleaming with hexagrammic wards, their nemesis force weapons crackling with sanctified energy. These were the Imperium's ultimate daemon hunters, space marines trained and equipped specifically to face the warp's greatest horrors. Their very presence made reality more stable, their minds shielded by psycho-indoctrination so brutal that only 1 in a million aspirants survived. Brother Captain Arvin landed first, his halberd pointed at Saitama. "By the authority of the Grey Knights, you will submit to binding. Resistance will be met with immediate banishment." Saitama looked at the 20 armored figures surrounding him, each one over 7 feet tall, each one radiating an aura of absolute lethality. "Okay, this is getting ridiculous. I said I don't want to fight." "Then kneel," Arvin commanded, his voice resonating through his helmet's Vox grill. "I'm not kneeling to anyone," Saitama replied, his tone still patient but edging toward irritation. "I didn't do anything wrong. Why are you treating me like a criminal?" Arvin raised his hand, and the Grey Knights began chanting in unison, their voices weaving a psychic net designed to bind daemons and trap entities of pure warp energy. The air shimmered with holy power, wards manifesting as golden chains that coiled towards Saitama. The chains touched his skin and evaporated. Not broken, not resisted. They simply stopped existing as if they'd been drawn on water and someone had disturbed the surface. The Grey Knight's chant faltered, confusion rippling through their telepathic battle chant. "Impossible," Arvin breathed. "The rights of binding are absolute. Unless—" Saitama, finally reaching the limit of his patience, jumped. He didn't jump at anyone, didn't jump to attack. He simply jumped straight up, the kind of casual hop someone might do when bored. The shockwave from his departure cratered the ground for 30 meters in every direction, sent the Grey Knights tumbling like toys, and flipped 2 of the Thunderhawks completely upside down before they could stabilize. Saitama sailed upward at escape velocity, punched through the cloud layer, kept going through the stratosphere, and came to a gentle stop in low orbit. He looked down at the planet below, a sphere of browns and greens, cities glowing like ember clusters, orbital defense platforms bristling with weaponry, and felt the profound displacement of someone utterly, completely lost. "Okay," he said to the vacuum of space. his voice unheard, but his expression miserable. "I'm definitely not in Japan anymore." Below, on Demeter's bounty, Inquisitor Hellstrom stepped off her Thunderhawk, her powered armor hissing as she moved. She was a severe woman, her face a mask of scars and augmetics, her left eye replaced by a multi-spectrum implant that glowed amber. She'd hunted gene-stealer patriarchs through hive undercities. She'd personally banished a keeper of secrets on Malhida Prime. She'd authorized the death of 3 billion souls to contain a daemon incursion.
And she had absolutely no frame of reference for what she just witnessed. "Brother Captain," she addressed Arvon, who was picking himself up from the dirt, "your assessment." Arvon's voice was shaken, a rare thing for a Grey Knight. "Inquisitor, he is not warp-spawned. Our rituals would have bound any daemon, any possessed, any entity drawing power from the immaterium. But he," the Grey Knight gestured helplessly at the sky, "he negated psychic force without being a blank. He endured weapons that would kill greater daemons, and his physical capabilities exceed measurement," Hellstrom finished. She turned to her retinue, a tech priest, a sanctioned psyker, and a crusty old preacher whose augmetic jaw clicked when he breathed. "Magos Rendic, analysis." The tech priest's 17 macadodendrites twitched in agitation, data streams flooding his visual cortex. "Inquisitor, the biological scans are contradictory. Subject appears entirely human. No genetic modification, no cybernetic enhancement. Muscle density within normal parameters. Yet kinetic output exceeds Titan-class weaponry. The Omnisia's logic cannot reconcile input data. Either our sensors are corrupted, or this entity violates fundamental physical law." "He violates nothing," the psyker interjected, her voice hollow, her eyes milk-white. Cassiel was an Alpha Plus telepath, powerful enough that she required a psychic hood just to prevent accidental mind-reading. "Inquisitor, I touched his thoughts when he spoke. Briefly, barely, but..." She shuddered. "There is no warp presence, because there is nothing to touch. His mind is simple, genuinely, bewilderingly simple. He wants to go home. He wants dinner. He wants to watch something called television. There is no malice, no corruption, no ulterior motive. It's like reading the thoughts of a child, if that child could accidentally shatter planets." Preacher Dominicus spat blood-tinged phlegm from his augmetic jaw. "Then he is the Emperor's punishment made flesh, a weapon without purpose, a miracle without meaning. The Emperor sends such things to test our faith, to remind us that we understand nothing of his grand design." Hellstrom was silent for a long moment, staring at the sky where Saitama had disappeared. "Or," she said quietly, "he is exactly what he claims to be, a stranger, lost, confused, and powerful beyond our ability to contain or destroy." "Then what do we do?" Arvon asked. "We treat him as a threat until proven otherwise, but we do not escalate to exterminatus, not yet. If he truly is benign, then killing him would be a waste of a resource. If he is malevolent," she trailed off, the unspoken truth hanging in the air. "If he was malevolent, they were all already dead. Track him, monitor him, and Emperor preserve us, find out what he actually is." 3 hours later, in the sublevels of Demeter's Bounty's primary hive city, Saitama walked through the underhive markets, having descended from orbit with no more fanfare than a falling leaf. The locals, scavengers, gangers, black market traders, parted before him not because they sensed his power, but because his utterly clean yellow jumpsuit and spotless white cape marked him either incredibly dangerous or incredibly insane. He stopped at a food stall where a mutant with 3 arms was grilling something that might have once been a rat. "Excuse me," Saitama said politely, "do you have any meat? I'm really hungry." The mutant stared at him, then at the still warm corpse of a hive rat. "Throne's sake, off-worlder, this is all we got. 10 thrones for a skewer." Saitama pulled out his wallet, miraculously intact, and produced yen. "Will this work?" The mutant examined the strange paper currency covered in unfamiliar script and symbols. "What in the warp is this?" "Money," Saitama hopefully said. "Not round here it ain't." The mutant's eyes narrowed. "You trying to cheat me, Baldy?" Before Saitama could respond, a gang of corpse grinder cultists emerged from the shadows, their industrial cutting tools revving, their bodies covered in ritual scars and hooks. The leader, a massive brute with a chain axe grafted to his spine, grinned with filed teeth. "Fresh meat," the cultist growled. "The Bloodfather hungers, and you look tender." Saitama sighed, a sound of infinite exhaustion. "I just want some food. Why is everyone in this place so hostile?" The cultist charged, chain axe screaming, fully intending to carve Saitama into ritual offerings for whatever dark power they worshipped. Saitama flicked his finger. The cultist, along with 17 of his brothers, the food stall, and a 3-meter section of rockcrete wall behind them, simply ceased to exist. A perfectly circular tunnel appeared, boring through 6 levels of underhive structure before emerging into an underground reservoir. Water began flooding the market. The remaining civilians stared in abject horror. Saitama looked at the destruction, then at his finger, then back at the fleeing crowds. "Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry." But they were already running, screaming about demons and witches and the Emperor's judgment. Within minutes, the entire underhive block had evacuated, leaving Saitama alone in a rapidly flooding market, his stomach still growling. He sat down on a piece of rubble and put his head in his hands. This is the worst day ever. Far above, in her commandeered command center, Inquisitor Hellstrom received the picked feeds of the incident. She watched the replay 3 times, her augmetic eye recording every detail, her natural eye wide with something approaching fear. 6 levels, Magos Rendic reported unnecessarily. Atomized, from a finger flick. Energy expenditure, equivalent to lance battery discharge. Source, biological kinetic force alone. Hellstrom made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her career. Activate Containment Protocol Omega-7. I want him transported to my personal interrogation facility, not as a prisoner. He'd walk through any cell we built. As a guest. Tell him we can help him find his way home. And if he refuses, Arvon asked. Then we pray, Hellstrom said grimly, that he continues to be benign, because if Saitama decides we're his enemy, there is nothing in the Imperium's arsenal that could stop him. Not Space Marines, not Titans, not the Imperial Navy. She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. Perhaps not even the Emperor himself.
The inquisitorial facility on Demeter's bounty was built to contain the most dangerous threats in the sector. Its walls were 3 meters of adamantium reinforced with psychic dampeners. Its cells had held Chaos Champions, rogue Psychers, and even a captured Lictor. The interrogation chamber where Saitama now sat had been sanctified by a saint, warded against demonic influence, and equipped with enough weaponry to level a city block. Saitama was sitting on a metal chair, looking bored, waiting for someone to explain what was happening. Inquisitor Hellstrom entered, flanked by her retinue, and took the seat opposite him. Between them sat a steel table bolted to the floor. She studied him carefully. The bland expression, the cheap costume, the posture of someone waiting for a bus rather than facing Imperial interrogation. I am Inquisitor Covenant Hellstrom of the Ordo Xenos, she began, her voice measured. You will answer my questions truthfully or what? Saitama interrupted,
Not rudely, just genuinely curious. "You'll shoot at me again? Because that didn't really work the first time." Hellstrom's jaw tightened. He was right, and they both knew it. "Let us establish something then. You claim to want to go home. Where is home?" "Japan, specifically Z-City. I am an apartment there. Well, I did. I'm not sure if I can get back now. That monster's attack did something weird when I punched it, and then I was falling through this purple tunnel thing, and now I'm here." Magos Rendik's mechadendrites twitched as he recorded every word. "Describe this purple tunnel phenomenon in precise detail." Saitama shrugged. "It was purple and tunnel-shaped. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm not a scientist." Cassell, the psyker, leaned forward. "Inquisitor, his thoughts remain consistent. He genuinely believes what he's saying. There's no deception, no mental conditioning, no psychic influence. He's simply lost." Inquisitor Hellstrom pulled out a data slate and projected a hololithic image of the galaxy. The Imperium's domain, stretching across 1,000,000 worlds, 1,000,000 points of light against the void. "This is where you are now. The Imperium of Man, the God Emperor's domain. Does any of this look familiar?" Saitama studied the projection, his eyes scanning the unfamiliar stellar cartography. "No, I've never seen anything like this. My Earth only had one government. Well, sort of. And definitely only one planet that people lived on." "One planet?" Hellstrom repeated the words as if they were a foreign concept. "You claim to come from a civilization that exists on a single world." "Yeah, is that weird?" The Inquisitor exchanged glances with her retinue. To the Imperium, a single-world civilization was primitive, almost prehistoric. Yet this man from such a place could annihilate Tyranid bioforms with casual ease and survive weapons that could crack open fortress monasteries. "Your power," Hellstrom continued, changing tactics. "Where does it come from? Genetic enhancement? Cybernetic augmentation? Packed with external forces?" "I did a lot of training. Push-ups, sit-ups, running, every day, for 3 years." The room fell silent. "That's it?" Arvin asked from his position by the door, his voice carrying disbelief. "That's it," Saitama confirmed. "Oh, and I stopped using air conditioning, and I ate 3 meals a day. Nothing fancy." Magos Rendik's system suffered what could only be described as a logic error. The Omnisia's algorithms cannot process this data. Standard human physical training, even performed optimally for decades, cannot produce the observed power levels. There must be additional variables. "Nope, just exercise and a balanced diet." Saitama's expression remained utterly sincere. Hellstrom realized, with growing unease, that he actually believed what he was saying, which meant either his understanding of his own power was fundamentally flawed, or reality in his home dimension operated under completely different physical laws. Neither possibility was comforting. "Demonstrate," she commanded, "your strength. Show us its limits." "Limits?" Saitama looked confused. "I don't really have any. At least, I've never found them. That's kind of my whole problem, actually." "Problem?" Preacher Dominicus growled. "Boy, there are quadrillions of souls in this Imperium who would give everything to possess a fraction of your strength. You call it a problem?" For the first time since arriving, Saitama's expression shifted, something melancholic flickering across his features. "Yeah, a problem. See, where I come from, I became a hero because I wanted to fight strong opponents, to feel that rush of a real challenge. But after my training, nothing can challenge me anymore. Every fight ends in one punch. Every monster, every villain, every threat, gone before I even break a sweat. I'm the strongest, and it's boring." The word hung in the air like a blasphemy. Cassell gasped, her psychic senses reeling. Emperor's mercy. He means it. The greatest power I've ever witnessed, and he finds it boring. His mind is drowning in ennui. Boredom, Hellstrom repeated, her voice flat. You possess the power to challenge armies, and you're bored. Yeah, Saitama slumped in his chair. I thought maybe coming here, to this weird place with all the monsters and soldiers, I might finally find someone strong. But that bug thing died in one punch. Those cultists in the Underhive died from a finger flick. You keep shooting at me and it doesn't even hurt. He looked at her with those empty eyes. Do you have anyone strong here? Anyone who could actually give me a real fight? Before Hellstrom could answer, the facility's alarms blared. Crimson lights flooded the corridor. A voxcaster crackled with panicked voices. Wah! Wah! Wark detected! Orc assault on Sector 7! Multiple battle wagons! A Gargant has been sighted! Repeat! Orc Gargant approaching the hive! Arvin's hand went to his halberd. Inquisitor, the Greenskins.
I heard. Hellstrom stood, her mind racing through tactical options. A Gargant, an orc superweapon the size of a hab-block, bristling with guns and protected by scrap armor 3 meters thick. It would take a coordinated strike from Titans or a full Space Marine assault to bring one down. The local PDF would be slaughtered. We need to evacuate this facility and coordinate with orcs. Saitama perked up, actually looking interested for the first time. What are orcs? Xenos. Hellstrom spat the word like a curse. Brutal, savage, engineered for warfare. They live to fight, and they're attacking this city because they detected a massive power signature. She paused, realization dawning. They detected you. Saitama stood up, and there was something almost eager in his posture. Are they strong? The Gargant alone has killed entire companies of Imperial Guard. Orc war bosses can tear through ceramite with their bare hands. Yes, by any reasonable measure, they are strong. For the first time since arriving in the 51st millennium, Saitama smiled. Not a big smile, just a small upturn of his lips, but it carried genuine enthusiasm. Can I fight them? Hellstrom stared at him, processing the request. A civilian asking permission to engage a Wa. A civilian who could atomize carnifexes. A civilian whose power, if properly directed, could save thousands of Imperial lives. If you help us, she said carefully, if you destroy this orc threat, I will devote every resource of the Inquisition to finding a way to return you home. Saitama's smile widened fractionally. Deal. Where are they? The orc Wa had descended on Demeter's bounty like a green tide of carnage and joy. Warboss Skull Crusher Ripgut was having the time of his life. His boys had smashed 3 PDF strongpoints. His Gargant, Gork's Fist, had stepped on an entire platoon, and now he'd heard rumors of a shiny Humie what punches real good. That was exactly the kind of fight he'd been looking for. The Gargant stomped through the hive outskirts, its void shield shimmering, its mega cannons reducing buildings to rubble. Around it, hundreds of orcs in battle wagons and trucks roared their war cries, firing wildly at anything that moved. The sky was filled with Daka jets, their guns stitching lines of destruction across the cityscape. Then, Saitama arrived. He didn't fly in on a gunship, didn't deploy from orbit. He simply jumped from the inquisitorial facility, arcing through the air in a perfect parabola, and landed in front of the Gargan with enough force to crack the Ferrocrete street into a spiderweb of fissures. The orcs stopped. The shooting ceased. A strange, unprecedented silence fell across the Wa. Saitama looked up at the Gargant, a towering monstrosity of scrap metal, belching smoke, its face a crude skull welded from tank plates. He looked at the hundreds of orcs surrounding him, their choppers raised, their sluggers pointed. He looked at the absolute chaos of the battlefield. And his smile grew wider. "All right," he said, cracking his knuckles in a gesture of pure anticipation. "Let's see what you got." Warboss Skull Crusher Ripgut, standing in the Gargant's head cockpit, saw the bald Humie and felt something primal stir in his orc soul. The genetic memory of countless battles, the psychic resonance of the Wa, all screaming the same message. This one's the good fight.
"Boys!" he bellowed through the voxcasters, his voice shaking windows. "That's the one, the shiny Humie, what the boss monster ran from. If we crump him, we'll be the strongest in the whole sector." The orcs roared in approval, a sound like thunder mixed with laughter, and charged as one unified mob of green-skinned violence. Saitama dropped into his fighting stance, a simple, economical posture that somehow radiated absolute confidence, and waited. The first orc to reach him was a massive knob in mega armor, swinging a power claw that could rip through ceramite. The claw descended towards Saitama's head with enough force to pulverize rock. Saitama caught it with one hand. The orc stared in confusion at his immobilized weapon. Saitama stared back, evaluating, analyzing. Then, almost gently, he pushed the orc backward. The knob flew 300 meters, crashed through a manufactorum, continued through several more buildings, and finally came to rest in the Hab district, creating a new crater alongside several others from the ongoing battle. "Too weak," Saitama muttered, disappointed. 20 more orcs swarmed him. Choppers descended, slugger rounds filled the air. A burner boy sprayed liquid fire, hot enough to melt steel. Saitama moved through them like wind through grass, each gesture casual, each strike precisely calibrated. An elbow there, orcs sent flying into the stratosphere. A backhand here, 3 orcs reduced to green paste. A light tap with his foot, the ground beneath 5 orcs erupted upward, launching them into a doka-jet, which promptly exploded. The orcs were dying, but they were also laughing. This was it. This was what they had been born for. A fight where they could actually try, where losing meant glorious death, where the enemy was so strong that every second of combat was pure, distilled joy. "More!" Warboss Skullcrusher screamed, his eyes wild with battle fever. "Send more boys! Make him work for it!" The Gargan's mega cannons fired, point blank, shells the size of transport vehicles converging on Saitama's position. The explosions created a mushroom cloud visible from orbit, heat and shrapnel turning everything within 100 meters into a kill zone. When the smoke cleared, Saitama was standing in a perfectly circular area of untouched ground, his expression shifting from hopeful to disappointed. "That didn't even tickle," he said, and jumped. He hit the Gargan's leg with a single punch. The entire leg, tons of scrap metal, welded plates, hydraulics, and whatever passed for orc engineering, disintegrated. The Gargan toppled sideways, its momentum carrying it through a row of warehouses, orcs inside screaming with delight even as they tumbled through the air. Saitama landed on top of the falling Titan, ran up its chassis as it fell, and punched through the cockpit armor like it was paper. Inside, he came face to face with Warboss Skullcrusher Ripgut, a creature that stood 12 feet tall, covered in battle scars, with a jaw that could bite through ceramite and fists that had killed 100 enemies. Their eyes met. "You the one," the Warboss growled, grinning with genuine respect. "You the strongest Yumi I ever seen. I'm going to enjoy this." Skullcrusher swung his power claw, a blow backed by centuries of combat experience and the psychic might of the Wa itself. Saitama blocked it with one finger. The Warboss swung again, same result. Again, blocked. A fourth time, putting everything into it, roaring with effort, and Saitama caught the claw with his hand, stopping it cold. "You're stronger than the others," Saitama admitted, and for a moment, Skullcrusher felt hope, but still not strong enough. Saitama flicked the Warboss on the forehead. The orc flew backward through the Gargan's internal structure, through the engine room, through the rear armor plating, and continued flying until he was nothing but a green speck, disappearing into the horizon. The Gargant, now thoroughly destroyed, collapsed completely, crushing dozens of boys under its bulk. The surviving orcs looked at the wreckage, then at Saitama, standing on top of the ruins, then at each other. And they cheered. "The Humie's the strongest," one knob roared. "That means if we follow him, we get the best fights." "Naw, you get," another countered. "If we crump him, we become the strongest." The philosophical debate quickly devolved into the orcs fighting among themselves, some forming a follow the Baldy faction, others doubling down on crump the Baldy, and the whole thing descending into the usual orc civil war that served as both entertainment and natural selection. Saitama watched the green-skinned warriors tear into each other with joyful abandon and felt his brief moment of excitement fade back into familiar disappointment. They weren't strong enough either, he said to no one in particular. From a safe distance, Inquisitor Hellstrom observed through magnoculars, her hands trembling slightly. Saitama had single-handedly destroyed a Wa that would have required a full Imperial Guard regiment to contain. He'd done it in less than 10 minutes, and he looked sad about it. "What have we found?" she whispered. "What has the universe sent us?"
News of the Bald Saint spread across Demeter's bounty like wildfire through a promethium refinery. Within days, the ecclesiarchy had dispatched 3 cardinals to investigate. Within a week, shrines appeared in the Underhive bearing crude drawings of a yellow-clad figure. Within 2 weeks, Inquisitor Hellstrom received a priority Alpha Vox transmission from Terra itself. The message was brief and terrifying. Contain or eliminate the anomaly. The High Lords are watching. But containment was impossible, and elimination was suicide. So Hellstrom did the only thing she could. She tried to understand him. Saitama, meanwhile, was sitting in a requisitioned hab unit eating ration bars and trying to figure out how the Voxcaster worked. He'd been in the 41st millennium for 3 weeks now, and his situation hadn't improved. No way home, no grocery stores, no television. Just constant prayers from civilians who kept calling him the Emperor's Fist or Holy Deliverer, or other titles that made him deeply uncomfortable. "I'm not holy," he'd told them repeatedly. "I'm just a guy." They'd interpreted this as humility and prayed harder. A knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Hellstrom entered, flanked by a new figure, a woman in midnight blue power armor, her face hidden behind a death mask, her presence radiating cold authority. The symbol on her pauldron was a grinning skull wreathed in flames. "Saitama," Hellstrom began carefully. "This is Interrogator Moriana of the Ordo Malleus. She has questions." Saitama looked up from his ration bar. "The Ordo what now?" "Demon Hunters," Moriana said, her voice distorted by the death mask. "We destroy threats from the warp, the dimension of chaos where the dark gods dwell. And you, Saitama, have attracted their attention." That got his attention. Dark gods? Like actual gods? Not like gods. They are gods. Korn, the blood god. Nurgle, the plague father. Tzeentch, the architect of fate. Slanesh, the dark prince. Each commands legions of demons. Each has corrupted entire civilizations. And each, she paused, studying him. Each wants you. Saitama blinked. "Why would gods want me? I'm not special." Moriana produced a data slate showing picked captures from across the sector. In every one, strange phenomena appeared near Saitama's location. Warp rifts collapsing spontaneously, demonic manifestations failing to coalesce, psychic phenomena simply ceasing to function. You are anathema to the warp. Not a blank. Blanks create voids. You simply reject it. Chaos cannot touch you, cannot corrupt you, cannot even perceive you properly. To beings of pure warp energy, you are a blind spot in reality. Okay, so they leave me alone? No, Hellstrom interjected. Chaos doesn't leave anything alone. If they cannot corrupt you, they will attempt to destroy you, or worse, use you. As if summoned by the conversation itself, the lights in the hab unit flickered. The temperature dropped 30 degrees in an instant. Frost crawled across the walls in spiral patterns that hurt to look at directly. And from nowhere and everywhere, a voice spoke.
9 voices overlapping, each representing a different aspect of madness. Saitama, the voices chorused, resonating through dimensions. We have watched, we have waited, we have seen the emptiness where your soul should burn. Moriana and Hellstrom drew their weapons instantly, their training overriding terror. Saitama just looked around, confused. Is someone talking? The 4 offer their gifts, simple one. Korn offers worthy opponents, wars eternal, battles that never end. Nurgle offers contentment, the peace of decay, where nothing matters. Tzeentch offers knowledge, the secret to return home, written in the architecture of fate. Slaanesh offers sensation, pleasures beyond your comprehension, feelings to replace the void. The walls began bleeding, not blood, but liquid color, hues that shouldn't exist, sounds made visible. Demonic entities pressed against reality's membrane, trying to claw their way through. Moriana began chanting banishment rites, her voice steady despite the existential horror surrounding them. Saitama stood up, ration bar still in hand, and addressed the empty air with the tone of someone dealing with a telemarketer. Look, I don't know who you are, but I'm not interested. I just want to go home and live a normal life. Your gifts sound like a hassle. The voices laughed, a sound like glass breaking in reverse, like screams played backwards, like the universe's death rattle compressed into audio. You misunderstand. We are not offering choices. We are inevitable. All souls belong to chaos eventually. You are merely delayed. A rift tore open in the center of the room, a wound in space-time that revealed the warp beyond. It was beautiful and horrible, a kaleidoscope of impossible geometries, screaming faces, and colors that existed between other colors. Demons began pouring through, bloodletters with crimson-skinned and brass collars, plague-bearers dripping with pestilence, horrors that split into smaller versions of themselves, demonettes whose beauty was a weapon. Moriana's banishment rites intensified, holy light erupting from her armor's purity seals. Saitama fired his plasma pistol, each shot vaporizing demons but doing nothing to stem the tide. Dozens became hundreds, spilling into real space, bringing madness and corruption with every breath. Saitama looked at the demons, then at the Inquisitors desperately fighting them, then back at the warp rift. "You guys are really annoying," he said with genuine frustration. He walked forward, past Moriana's attempts to stop him, past the demons that lunged at him only to disintegrate when their claws touched his skin. He walked right up to the warp rift, that tear in space-time where the laws of physics broke down, where sanity went to die, where even looking too long could drive a person mad. And he punched it. Not a serious punch, not even a consecutive normal punches. Just one basic, ordinary, everyday punch that he might throw at a mosquito. The warp rift closed.
Not sealed, not banished, not temporarily disrupted. It closed, the tear in reality stitching itself shut as if the universe had decided that Saitama's desire for it to stop existing outweighed the fundamental nature of chaos itself. The demons caught halfway through the portal simply ceased, their forms unraveling back into the immaterium with sounds of confused frustration. The temperature returned to normal, the walls stopped bleeding impossible colors, the voices fell silent. Saitama dusted off his hands. There, problem solved. Moriana's legs gave out. She collapsed to her knees, her death mask cracking as her jaw went slack beneath it. He closed a warp rift with a punch. without rituals, without sacrifice, without even breaking stride. That's impossible. That's not how reality works. Maybe in your reality, Hellstrom murmured, her worldview crumbling further. But apparently his reality follows different rules. Saitama turned back to them, completely oblivious to the magnitude of what he'd just done. So, about these dark gods, are they strong? Like, actually strong? Because if they are, maybe I could fight them and finally get a good challenge. The question hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. No, Hellstrom said quickly, desperately. No, you cannot fight the Chaos Gods. They are not physical beings you can punch. They exist across all of time and space simultaneously. They are ideas given form, emotions made manifest. You cannot reach them. Oh, Saitama's disappointment was palpable. That's too bad. I thought maybe... Fascinating. The voice returned, but different now, singular, focused, and deeply amused. The air shimmered, and a figure materialized, not through a rift, not through possession, but simply appearing as if it had always been there, waiting permission to be noticed. It wore the shape of a man, but wrong in every detail. Its proportions shifted constantly, its eyes held too many colors, its smile revealed teeth that were sometimes there and sometimes not. This was a demon, yes, but not a lesser spawn. This was a herald of Tzeentch, a lord of change's personal emissary. I am Kairos Prescient, speaker of the Architect's will. I come not to fight, not to corrupt, but to offer understanding. You seek a worthy opponent. The gods cannot provide this. They exist across all of time and space simultaneously. They are ideas given form, emotions made manifest. You cannot reach them. Really? Where? Do not listen to its lies. No lies, holy warrior, only truth, a currency I trade in. Saitama, there exists in this galaxy an entity that might match you. The Emperor of Mankind entombed upon the golden throne on Terra. 10,000 years he has fought chaos, holding back the warp with psychic might alone. If anyone in this reality could challenge you, it would be him. The God Emperor? Saitama's eyes widened slightly. He's strong? Beyond mortal comprehension, a being who conquered a galaxy, who burned planets with his mind, who fought gods and won. And unlike chaos, he has a physical form, one you could reach, could test yourself against. The daemon's smile widened. Of course, reaching Terra requires navigating the Imperium's bureaucracy, surviving countless threats, and potentially fighting through his own custodians. But for one seeking challenge, what better quest? Hellstrom moved to intercept, but Saitama was already nodding thoughtfully. That does sound interesting. How do I get to Terra? You don't, Hellstrom said firmly. The daemon is manipulating you. Whatever chaos wants you to do on Terra, it will result in catastrophe, possibly the fall of the Imperium itself. I manipulate nothing. I merely inform. What Saitama chooses to do with information is his own will, something chaos respects above all else. Free will, agency, choice. The daemon began to fade, its purpose accomplished. But consider this, Punchman. You have the power to reach Terra. You have the power to meet the Emperor. And you have the power to ask him how to return home. Who else in this galaxy could provide such answers? And with that, Cairo's prescient vanished, leaving behind only the faint scent of burnt ozone and changing fate. Saitama stood in the center of the room, processing this information. Terra, the Emperor, possibly the strongest person in this universe, and maybe, just maybe, someone who could help him get home. "I'm going to Terra," he announced. "No," Hellstrom said. "Absolutely not." "Why not? You said you'd help me get home if I helped you with the orcs. I did that. Now I'm doing this my way." "Because Terra is the most protected planet in the galaxy. You cannot simply walk into the Imperial Palace and demand an audience with the Emperor. The Adept Custodes will kill you before you reach the throne room." "I don't think they can." And that was the problem. She'd seen him fight. She'd seen him close warp rifts with punches and destroy wogs single-handedly. She'd watched impossible things become routine around him, and she knew, with sick certainty, that he was probably right. "If you go to Terra," she said quietly, "if you force your way to the Emperor, you will start a war. The Imperium will mobilize against you, Space Marine chapters, Titan legions, the Imperial Navy. Billions will die." Saitama considered this, his expression troubled. He didn't want people to die. He never wanted that. But he also desperately wanted to go home, and this Emperor person might be his only chance. What if I just asked nicely? Like, send a message ahead. "Hey, I'm coming to talk. Please don't shoot at me." Moriana actually laughed, a bitter, exhausted sound. "You think the Imperium responds to polite requests from anomalous entities? The High Lords of Terra will see you as a Xenos weapon, a demon trick, or a threat to humanity's survival. They will order your destruction, and they will not stop until either you are dead or they are. But I'm not any of those things. I'm just a guy who wants to go home." "It doesn't matter what you are," Hellstrom said. "It matters what they think you are. And in the Imperium, suspicion is enough to warrant execution." Saitama was quiet for a long moment, staring at the floor, grappling with a decision he didn't want to make. Finally, he looked up, and there was something in his expression that hadn't been there before. Determination mixed with resignation. "I'm going to Terra anyway," he said softly. "I'll try not to hurt anyone. I'll try to do this peacefully. But I'm going home even if this whole galaxy tries to stop me." Hellstrom met his gaze and saw the truth there. He meant every word. He would try to be peaceful. He would try to minimize casualties. But if pushed, if forced, if given no other choice, Saitama would carve a path to Terra through anything and anyone who stood in his way. And there was nothing in the Imperium's vast arsenal that could stop him. "Emperor, preserve us. We've created a crisis that even the God Emperor himself may not be able to resolve." Moriana removed her death mask, revealing a face marked with purity scars and eyes that had seen too much. "Then we do the only thing we can. We go with him. We try to broker peace before the shooting starts, and we pray that Terra's defenders are wise enough to recognize the difference between a threat and a tragedy." Saitama smiled, grateful for the support. "Thanks. I appreciate it. And hey, maybe we'll find some good restaurants on the way. I'm really tired of ration bars." The two Inquisitors exchanged glances, united in the shared understanding that they were about to embark on either the most important diplomatic mission in Imperial history or the prelude to the greatest catastrophe since the Horus Heresy. Possibly both.
The journey to Terra should have taken months through the warp.
navigating the immaterium's treacherous currents while praying to avoid daemon incursions, temporal anomalies, or simply getting lost in the infinite madness between stars. Instead, it took 3 days because Saitama decided to jump. "You're going to what?" Hellstrom had screamed when he first suggested it. "Jump," Saitama repeated, as if this were the most reasonable thing in the world. "I can hold my breath in space. I'll just jump from planet to planet until I get to Terra. It's faster than waiting for one of your ships." "That's not how space travel works. The distances are astronomical. Even at light speed, it would take—" Saitama jumped. He left Demeter's bounty with enough force to shift the planet's orbit by 3 millimeters, a change that would require decades of Mechanicus recalibration and cause mild confusion among the Magi. He sailed through the void, passing merchant vessels whose captains would later report seeing a bald comet streak past their viewports. He landed on a barren moon, adjusted his trajectory, and jumped again. Then again, and again. Hellstrom and Moriana followed in a commandeered inquisitorial frigate, watching through long-range augers as Saitama hopscotched across the sector like a child playing on stepping stones, each jump covering light years, each landing creating new craters on lifeless rocks. The ship's navigator, an ancient psyker whose third eye had witnessed 1,000 warp journeys, simply gave up trying to explain why this shouldn't be possible and began drinking heavily. By the 3rd day, they reached the Sol system. Terra rose before them, humanity's birth world, the throne world, the most heavily defended planet in existence. Orbital weapons platforms the size of cities tracked their approach. Fleet groups that could annihilate sector armadas moved into intercept positions. And from the Astronomicon itself, the psychic lighthouse powered by the Emperor's dying will, a pulse of warning radiated outward. "Threat detected. Unknown anomaly. Defend the cradle." Saitama, who'd been drifting peacefully toward Terra's atmosphere, suddenly found himself surrounded by 100 Space Marine strike cruisers, their weapons hot, their Vox channels demanding identification. Hello?" Saitama spoke into the void, forgetting that sound doesn't travel in vacuum. "I'm here to talk to the Emperor. Could someone point me to his office?" The Space Marines, of course, heard nothing. They only saw an unarmored human floating in hard vacuum, somehow alive, somehow approaching Terra with clear hostile intent. The captain of the lead cruiser, a Space Marine named Sergeant Corvin, made the logical tactical decision. Fire. Lance batteries unleashed hell. Macro cannons the size of Hab blocks hurled shells that could crack continents. Torpedoes carrying plasma warheads streaked through the void. The combined firepower of 100 warships converged on one point in space where Saitama floated, creating an explosion visible from Mars. When the light cleared, Saitama was still there, looking mildly annoyed and patting out a small ember on his cape. "Hey, I'm trying to be peaceful here," he shouted futilely into the vacuum. Hellstrom's frigate broke through the blockade, her inquisitorial override codes barely preventing her own ship from being destroyed. "All forces cease fire. This is Inquisitor Covenant Hellstrom, Ordo Xenos, priority clearance Omega-7. The entity is not hostile. Repeat, not hostile." "Inquisitor," Sergeant Corvin's voice crackled back, strained with barely controlled aggression. "That thing just survived a full battle group salvo without a scratch. Respectfully, it doesn't matter what its intentions are. It's a threat that must be eliminated." "You can't eliminate it," Hellstrom said, her voice heavy with exhausted certainty. "We've tried. Everyone's tried. It cannot be killed, cannot be contained, and cannot be stopped. The only option is communication." "Then let it communicate through death," Corvin snarled. "For the Emperor." The Space Marine fleet opened fire again, this time with boarding torpedoes mixed among the ordnance. If they couldn't destroy it, they'd board it, cut it apart from within. Dozens of armored projectiles slammed into Saitama's position, their magnetic grapples extending, their assault ramps deploying. Saitama, thoroughly irritated now,
punched one of the boarding torpedoes. The vehicle disintegrated, along with the 3 behind it, the 5 to its left, and the cruiser that had launched them. The ship simply crumpled like a paper cup, its void shields meaningless, its adamantium hull offering no more protection than wet tissue. It broke apart silently in the void, 400 Space Marines and 10,000 crew souls extinguished in an instant. The fleet froze. Sergeant Corvin, watching from his command throne as an entire strike cruiser ceased to exist from a single gesture, felt something he hadn't experienced since his indoctrination as a neophyte. Doubt. "Halt," he whispered. Then louder, "All units hold fire." Saitama, seeing the attack stop, nodded in satisfaction and continued his descent toward Terra. He entered the atmosphere gently, for him, trailing only a small plasma sheath as friction tried and failed to affect his invulnerable body. He landed in the Himalayan range, specifically in a courtyard approximately 40 kilometers from the Imperial Palace, creating yet another crater and startling a group of Adeptus Arbitites who'd been conducting routine patrol. The Arbitites stared. Saitama waved awkwardly. "Hi, which way to the Emperor's Palace?" They pointed, their hands shaking, unable to process the jumpsuit stranger who'd just fallen from orbit without a ship. "Thanks." Saitama started walking. Behind him, Terra's defenses mobilized like a disturbed hive. The Adeptus Custodes, the Emperor's personal guardians, each one worth 100 Space Marines, deployed from the palace in gleaming Auramite armor. The Sisters of Silence, psychic nulls whose very presence made demons scream, formed ranks. Titan legions awakened in their mountain hangars, god machines preparing for war on Holy Terra itself. And in the depths of the Imperial Palace, in the Sanctum Imperialis, before the golden throne where the Emperor of Mankind had sat in eternal torment for 10,000 years, the Adeptus Custodes Tribune Valoris received a psychic sending so powerful it drove him to his knees.
3 words, transmitted with the force of a star going nova, carrying the authority of a god who'd seen the galaxy's birth and would see its death. The Emperor, broken, dying, barely conscious, locked in eternal warfare with chaos itself, had noticed the anomaly walking toward his palace, and he was curious. Valoris rose, his ancient armor creaking, his guardian spear crackling with energy. "The Master of Mankind has spoken," he announced to the assembled Custodes. "The stranger will be permitted to approach, but know this, if it shows even a hint of threat to the Emperor, we will end it or die trying." 300 Custodes thumped their spears in acknowledgement, ready to sacrifice themselves to protect their lord. Saitama, unaware of the theological crisis his presence was causing, walked through the Himalayan foothills toward the palace's outer walls. People fled before him, not because he looked dangerous, but because word had already spread through Vox channels and psychic whispers. The entity that destroyed a cruiser, that survived naval bombardment, that walked in vacuum, was coming to the Emperor. He reached the palace gates, towering structures of blessed adamantium 50 meters high, inscribed with prayers older than most civilizations. The gates were closed. Saitama knocked politely. "Hello? Is anyone home? I'm here to see the Emperor." The gates opened, not from mechanisms or servitors, but from the will of the Custodes within, who'd been instructed to permit his approach. Saitama walked into the Eternity Gate, the threshold between the outer palace and the sacred inner sanctum, and found himself facing Tribune Valoris and 300 of humanity's finest warriors. "I am Tribune Valoris," his voice resonating through his helmet, shield captain of the Adeptus Custodes, guardian of the Emperor's threshold. You stand upon the most holy ground in the galaxy. State your purpose. Saitama, feeling distinctly out of place among the golden giants, scratched his head nervously. I'm Saitama. I'm from another dimension or planet or something. I'm not really clear on the details. A demon told me the Emperor might know how to send me home, so I was hoping to ask him. Politely, he added quickly. I'm not here to cause trouble. Valoris studied him through his helmet's sensors, biological scanners, psychic detectors, purity analyzers, all returning contradictory data. The demon spoke truth in this. If anyone in this galaxy can answer your question, it is the master of mankind. But understand, outsider, the Emperor has not spoken coherently in 10 millennia. He exists in a state between life and death, his consciousness spread across a galaxy, holding back the forces of chaos. The chances he can help you are. But he might, Saitama interrupted, a note of desperate hope in his voice. Even a small chance is better than nothing. Please, I just want to go home. I don't belong here. Something in those words, the raw, genuine loneliness of someone utterly displaced, resonated with Valoris. The Custodes understood duty, understood sacrifice, understood being separated from what one loved for higher purpose. But this being had no duty here, no purpose, no reason to suffer this displacement except cosmic misfortune. Very well, Valoris decided. You will be escorted to the Sanctum Imperialis. You will approach the Golden Throne, and if the Emperor deigns to acknowledge you, then perhaps your answer lies there. But know this, if you threaten the Emperor, if you move with violence, if you show even a shadow of corruption, we will destroy you or die trying. Understood? I understand, Saitama said sincerely. I won't hurt anyone, I promise. The procession began. Saitama walked through corridors carved from the bones of mountains, past murals depicting the Great Crusade, past reliquaries holding the artifacts of saints, deeper and deeper into the palace's heart. Custodes flanked him at every step, their weapons ready, their minds prepared for martyrdom. Hellstrom and Moriana caught up, their frigate finally navigating Terra's bureaucratic nightmare. They fell in behind Saitama, serving as witnesses to what might be either humanity's salvation or its damnation. Finally, they reached the Sanctum Imperialis. The doors opened, and Saitama saw the Golden Throne. It was vast beyond comprehension, a mountain of machinery, psychic amplifiers, life support systems, and holy technology, all dedicated to keeping one man alive. And at its center, barely visible through the golden light, sat the Emperor of mankind. He was immense, even seated, his skeletal form barely held together by technology and will. His hands, once capable of reshaping worlds, now locked to the throne's armrests. Cables and tubes pierced his body. Psychic lightning arced from his skull. This was not a man anymore. This was an idea made flesh, a god chained to a dying body, a consciousness spread across a billion souls. And his eyes, those terrible, infinite eyes, opened and focused on Saitama. The psychic pressure was immense. Moriana collapsed instantly, bleeding from her nose. Hellstrom fell to one knee, her mind screaming under the weight of divine attention. The Custodes braced themselves, their training allowing them to endure what mortal minds would shatter. Saitama just stood there, unbothered, looking up at the Emperor with curious eyes. And then, for the first time in 10,000 years, the Emperor of mankind spoke aloud, his voice shaking the palace's foundations, heard simultaneously in the minds of every psyker in the solar system. I have seen the threads of fate. I have watched the paths of destiny, and in all my sight, across all possible futures, I never foresaw you. Saitama blinked. Is that bad? It is unprecedented. You are an impossibility, a blank space in precognition, a being outside fate itself. The Emperor leaned forward as much as his bindings would allow, his attention focused with the weight of a collapsing star. "Tell me, Saitama, why have you come?" "I want to go home. Can you help me?" The Emperor was silent for a long moment, his consciousness reaching out, analyzing, computing billions of variables. Then, incredibly, he laughed, a sound like thunder mixed with genuine amusement, the first laughter to echo in this chamber in millennia. "You have the power to shatter planets. You could conquer this galaxy. You could challenge gods. And all you want is to go home and watch television." "Yeah," Saitama confirmed, missing the cosmic irony. "Pretty much. So can you help or not?" The Emperor studied him, this strange, simple being from beyond the veil, who'd accidentally terrorized his Imperium, who'd punched through warp rifts, who'd walked to Terra and demanded an audience with the confidence of complete innocence. And the Emperor made a decision that would echo through the ages. "Yes, I can help you, but the price is this."
"The price is this. You must carry a message back to your reality. A warning."
Saitama nodded, listening carefully as the Emperor's words resonated through dimensions.
"Your universe exists parallel to ours, separated by barriers thinner than thought. The creature that struck you, the one whose attack tore you here, it damaged those barriers. Other things may follow, worse things. When you return, you must be vigilant. You must be ready."
"So basically, watch out for monsters from your dimension," Saitama simplified. "I can do that. That's kind of my job anyway."
"Then we have accord."
The Emperor raised one skeletal hand, and the golden throne blazed with light. Psychic energy coalesced around Saitama, forming patterns that predated human mathematics, geometries that existed before the universe cooled.
"I will open a door between worlds. It will require power I can ill afford to spend. But you, Saitama, are worth the cost. You remind me of something I had forgotten in 10,000 years of war."
"What's that?"
"That sometimes the greatest power is choosing not to use it."
The portal opened, a rift not into the warp, but into something deeper, the space between realities themselves. Through it, Saitama could see his apartment, his city, his world. He could hear the faint sounds of traffic, smell the processed air of Z-City. Home. "Thank you," Saitama said, genuine gratitude in his voice. He turned to Hellstrom and Moriana, who watched with exhausted relief. "Thanks for not killing me. Sorry about the trouble." Hellstrom managed a weak smile. "Emperor be with you, Saitama, even in your own reality." He stepped toward the portal, then paused. "Hey, Emperor. For what it's worth, you seem pretty strong. Maybe not give me a good fight strong, but definitely impressive. I hope you feel better soon." The Emperor's laughter echoed once more, warm, almost fond.
"I have held back the darkness for 10 millennia. I will hold it for 10,000 more. But your concern is noted. Go now. Your world needs its hero, however bored he may be."
Saitama jumped through the portal, and reality sealed behind him like water closing over a stone. The Golden Throne's light dimmed. The Emperor settled back into his eternal vigil, though those who attended him swore his posture seemed somehow lighter, as if a moment of genuine humor had eased his burden. Tribune Valoris approached Hellstrom. "What have we witnessed?" "Proof," she replied, "that even in the grim darkness of the first millennium, sometimes the universe sends us exactly what we need, even if we don't understand it at the time." On Terra, the Imperium would debate for centuries whether Saitama had been a saint, Xenos, demon, or something else entirely. The Ecclesiarchy would argue over his canonization. The Inquisition would classify the incident as Vermilion-level secret. The High Lords would lose sleep over the implications. But in his apartment in Z-City, Saitama was home. He checked his calendar, relieved to find only a few hours had passed. His groceries were still in bags on the counter, slightly warm but salvageable. The TV remote was where he'd left it. He made dinner, premium beef because he'd earned it, sat down on his worn couch and turned on the television. A hero show was playing, something about a cyborg fighting a monster. Saitama watched with mild interest, absently noting that the monster seemed weak. Outside his window, a dimensional shimmer flickered briefly, a residual effect of the Emperor's portal, or perhaps something else. Something watching, something waiting. But Saitama didn't notice. He was too busy enjoying being bored in his own dimension, where things made sense, where he understood the rules, where he could be just another hero doing his job. In the 41st millennium, there was only war. But for one brief, impossible moment, there had been Saitama, a reminder that power without purpose is meaningless, that strength without wisdom is wasted, and that sometimes the greatest warriors are those who fight only when necessary. The Emperor protected, the Imperium endured, and somewhere between dimensions, the barriers held. For now. But both universes would forever remember the day a bald man in a yellow jumpsuit proved that even in the darkest timeline, one punch could change everything.
The Emperor protects. More stories await.